Hello, my name is Michael O'Keefe, aka The Movie Wist. If you enjoy this interview and want to hear more top-notch film industry conversations, please press the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell to stay in the know. Hello, João Paulo Miranda Maria. Please tell my audience what your movie Memory House is about.
Memory House, it's about one old Brazilian man came from the north and going to the south in the countryside of Brazil in a very conservative, fanatic, and society, very strange, that he needs to face and to fight to find back all his origin and roots. That's almost more like that.
Okay, how long have you wanted to make this film? How long was it in your pores for?
Oh, this idea started in 2015 when I participated in Critics Week in Cannes with my first short film, and then I participated in one lab. I started to write the script there, and after I developed it in the script in the Cine Fundação Residence with support of Cannes too, etc. So I started to write this idea, and it's a lot about my the story of myself, because I came from the countryside, from a very conservative and place, very religious place, and I could feel this kind of situation that we are seeing now with this extreme right movement, and very near to the fascism, for example. And so, and I grew up in a German school. My father was a shooter competitor, and so I participated in competition of shoots too, and then with 14 years old, when I saw I made the cinema because when I saw 2001. So and then I changed, and everybody from my family, very conservative and simple people, said, "Oh, you are so crazy," and so I started to dream to make films, and so I bring a lot of this feedback of my history there, and now when we see Bolsonaro moment, now we could see the connection with all this.
Wow, so 2001 is Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick. That really changed your life.
Yeah, sure, because I feel myself to I needed to reach something that I call it sometimes like invisible, something that we can't see in the image, but it's so much more suggestive that you can feel that it's something there, but like invisible. One time I read one phrase from Bresson, one director that I admire too, and he wrote that the filmmaker is the one who brings the invisible to visible. And of course, after when I saw, I don't know, like Antonioni, the invisible wall in Blow Up, for
Yeah.
example, or the monolith, of course, in 2001. So
Mhm.
how bring something more invisible that the people could feel, something like in a way spiritual, something that's the point that in the film I tried to reach this too.
Very
Uh,
cool. My favorite movie by Kubrick is Barry Lyndon. Do you like that movie?
sure. I like a lot, and the principle, the actors, the way that they act, of course, because all the light, and so they don't have a possibility to move a lot, but how this strange mood and the way that he brings something so old and in a genuine way, because like for example, I saw very fast one Netflix series about the revolution in France. And when I saw not only the clothes, but how the comportment, the way that they act, it looks like people going to the shopping center. It's not something that we can feel something genuine and in this old other generation aspect. So I can feel in Kubrick the fidelity with the subject so much more deeply. So yeah, I like it a lot, Barry Lyndon.
Wow, that's awesome. So, one thing that I kept reading while I was doing preparation for this interview is that this was the only South American entry in a lot of the prestigious festivals that it got into. And is that weird to you? How does that feel?
Oh, the film, yes, the only Latin American film selected there. It's my first film. The film was supposed to be too in the Critics Week invited, and a few days after the fortnight selection called me too, and final in the last days the official competition. So the film was supposed to be in the official competition. So of course it's a strange feeling, but. I think that we don't make like films only to be showed or seen in the festivals, and for me, I don't have interest about the red carpet, and so for me, it's something so much more height because I want to make one dialogue with great masters like Kubrick, Pasolini, Antonioni, Bresson, and Ozu and Dreyer and so Lang and so these kind of figures that I really want to one day to have one conversation in the same deeply level of language. So it's more what interests me, and so the film, of course, I took one direction not so obvious and so different from the usual good taste. And so to me, at the same time, it's a little strange, but I made that in my short films too, and worked fine in the festival. So for me, the festival was great. And after Toronto, what really surprised me was one kind of prediction from Variety, looking for the critics after Venice and Toronto to tell about the films and make one list for the Oscar, and they put it in the 5 nominees my film. So this thing, of course, really touched me in a little in a point that I how can I say, it's a big surprise to me because I was so much looking to the side of cinema as art, as author, and the other side, the entertainment, you start to pay attention with my film. So for me, it looks like a little strange, but it's very interesting, this opportunity. And and of course, I just closed now with the CAA, the agents from California. I will make the next 2 films. The one in Amazon will be Brazilian one, but with international support. Original story script from me, and the other film, the third one, my third, will be in US with great actors, but it's everything original too. The script, the idea. So I'm looking to find one way to show my signature in cinema. So of course my target, it's something so much more high. It's not about money. It's about the history of cinema. So it's what I am looking for.
Yeah, congratulations on the CAA deal. That I read about that. It's fantastic. And of course, the Academy's new rules might look favorably upon you. What are your thoughts about the Academy's change in policy?
Oh, I like so much. I think it's the justice that they are making now, and the producer directors now needs to think more deeply which kind of professional they will work, and I think it's interesting because we can give opportunities and find great professionals one in places that maybe the market didn't look in attention. So it's interesting. I think it's positive.
Absolutely. You won the Roger Ebert Award at the Chicago International Film Festival as well. Are you a Roger Ebert fan? What did that have any personal meaning to you, getting that award?
Oh, for me, what it's when I remember his name. Of course, what comes to me, it's his talent to discover talents, discover new voices, as the proper award says about. And as I remember, like Scorsese, for example, so to discovered by him too. So for me, it's very symbolical because I am starting now, so maybe it's the first window to America and Hollywood to know about my work. And I don't know if you saw the film yet or not.
I've seen it.
So it's something that of course it's a different kind of film. So that's point that I'm interested to me to talk about the way that I look made this film, and maybe it's an opportunity to talk about it in US. So that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. How old are you, by the way?
I have 38.
38. Okay. Okay.
Yes, and I have two boys, two kids,
Oh, wow. Cool. How old are they?
7 and 10.
Oh, okay. Cool. You're past the terrible twos.
Yeah. And now I am living in Montreuil, near
Oh,
to
really?
Paris. Yes, I am living the same street of the Melier house, so it's
Okay.
fantastic. Of course, the building not exist anymore, but it's interesting to be in a place with this memory.
Fantastic. So, as you were touching upon, Memory House deals with racism, and we all know that we clearly have a lot of racism in the world still.
Yeah.
We sometimes we think we're past it, and then it rears its ugly head. What do you think can be done to curb racism, xenophobia, all that?
To me, when I started the idea in the film, I looked so much about the intolerance, the origin of a lot of preconcepts. And of course, when I started the film, I never wrote in the script, I never described my main character as black and so old.
Hmm.
But in my mind, I always thought about Antonio Pitanga because he acted in the first Glauber Rocha film, in the first Cacadieg film, the big names of Cinema Novo in Brazil, and so it was so important to bring him because I can feel in him the importance of the history of Brazilian cinema. So I invited him more because this importance and this like invisible elements in him. And then when of course I decided to put one main character black, of course the people started to think it's a black film movement. But the initial idea was more to be one film about intolerance, and so that's the point that I think initial about the film. I think I bring in, and of course I in the film have a lot of stuff about intolerance, old things, from the colonization in Brazil and all this politics in Brazil, and of course it's xenophobia because it's a man from the north, and of course he is black, and he is in a place that looks like more Europe, that wants to be international and not to be Brazil. So it's a it's a very different place and very real because this place it's real. It's a place built this city in the 40s when people came from German and Austria to escape from the Second World War. Like, for example, the abandoned house in the film. was built by a ex-Nazi policy, and so all this kind of marks of time and elements, it's in the film. So I don't see like to only to resume the film like one fight against the racism, but one fight against all the preconcept, and even the main character has a lot of conflict inside him. So he has a lot of old ideas like machismo and have preconcept tools. So it's a very complex and deeply face of the Brazilian people. So that was the first target that I looked like to touch and reach with this film and with the actor.
Very cool. For your lead, what are some other movies by him you would love to recommend people to check out?
You can see, yes, Barra Vento. Barra Vento is the first film of Glauber Rocha, and the last film too of Glauber Rocha that it's very interesting. That it's in Portuguese it's Idade da Terra, age of the earth, age of the earth.
Okay, cool. So, how long was the shoot? And can you remember what the most rewarding day was?
In the shooting,
Yeah.
oh, maybe maybe the death of the death of the dog.
Okay.
The death of the dog, because we have had professionals there that give one kind of medicine to the dog sleep. So it was very comfortable in the earth and sleeping, almost sleeping, and in one moment. I really needed to have in the film one moment to look to the eyes of the dog. I wanted that the dog looks to the audience. So because sometimes I have the feeling that the society have more fear about the instance before the violence, not the violence itself. So I would like to make one impression, to touch very deeply in the stomach of the people, only looking to the eyes of this dog. And then, so the dog looks and is sleep. And then cut, and you will not see the death of the dog. Is the Cristóvão, the character that will make the final act to kill the dog, so to stop the suffer, etc. So to me it's so simple, but I can imagine. I always wanted to find this strong and very intense moment. So the GOP said, "Oh, João, it's okay. We already have the image of the dog." But I said, "No, I don't want to see the dog sleeping. I just want that the dog looks to me, looks to the camera." And so takes a time. And then I went to the camera near. I just make one movement to touch the dog. And then, very surprisingly, the dog started to move and look directly to the camera. So it's seconds, but we work with time. So it's important to wait the proper moment to really register in the film this contemplation of the life and reality. So I imagine that the audience will suffer so much more when the dog looks to them, and they cannot have power to stop or change the history. So I think this is more painful than only to see like a explicit violence of a dog dying.
How important is sound design for you to create the ambiance that you want to achieve?
For me, the sound cannot only came only to complete, like only to illustrate, to reaffirm one element of the image. So to me, I like to think very separately. It's very independent. So to me, the sound needs to bring something that we cannot see in the image. Basically, this idea that I like it so much. So the idea of the sound is to listen elements that came out of the frame and elements that it's not so real. For example, we used a special microphone to capture a very large frequency to in a software recover the sound in the same way as like a dog, as one bull could listen. And so a lot of simple sound elements really transform and change when we started to complex them, to really go diving them in this kind of very different frequency. So it was very interesting to test these possibilities to bring the exactly mood that I looked like I wanted to find. And of course, we can think about music. We have one proper music in the film. The music is saying it's time. This is one religious music. It's not a music for entertainment. It's a music used in the temple, in the church, to really call the entity of the caboclo boiadeiro, this figure of the caboclo boiadeiro, the statue that you see in the film, represents the figure of the Brazilian cowboy mixed with the bull. And so like the music sings, it's a moment to die, to birth again, and it's time to fight the evil. So it's time to have one revolution, one change, because this entity in the church represents revolution of a new cycle that it's coming. So that's why that I bring this kind of music. It's one special element that, of course, it's not everybody that knows all the details, but for me was important that each element have one history in the background. So have one justification, not so gratuitous.
Very cool. Well, I want to thank you very much for your time. Do you have any final words you'd like to leave on about your film Memory House?
Oh, it's I think that I said to you, and so no, to me, I only want to say that it's a one film calling to one kind of revolution and one change in the Brazilian society. So because, but it's not only in the content, because sometimes I can see different kind of films that bring the idea of something new, something to renew, something to have one revolution, to change the society in some way, but they use the same style, the same way to cut, the same way to position the camera. So they use everything the same. And as I said, like I don't understand like to see to understand one real revolution seen in one kind of simple Netflix series format. So I think that we need to revolution ourselves in the language of the film, in the way to the format, to the form. So in the way to every position of the camera, it's not so simple. Maybe looks like simple because sometimes the people are more looking to the history, but to me it's so much more interest about how they feel the story, not how they understand the story, but how they feel, they can feel the texture and this time. So for me it's to bring this invisible. So that's the point that I would like to be clear what it's my target.